Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Swing Good Torah. Okay, we're starting the year 5778 with Parsha Bereisheis. We're starting at the beginning, and Mizrat Hashem, we'll see if we can go through every Parsha this year. All right, so if we go back to the beginning, if we go back to the Bereisheis and see when Hashem first created everything, we can see the view of how the world was at its beginning. And by studying and learning about the beginning of the world, we can see the goal of all of history, and we can see where everything, all world history is going to go, and we can see to the end of history, so to speak. And we're going to get a lot more clarity when we look at Adam Arishon. When we see the first man that Hashem created, we're going to get a lot more clarity about our own lives and what our own role in the world and what the goal of our own life should be. All right, so it's very exciting. Let's go. Let's dive right in and let's see what we can find. So first, if we go into the Parsha, we can see it's in the second parak, the second chapter, and it's Pasuk Ches. It says, "Vayita Hashem Elokim gan be'eden mikedem, v'yasem sham es hadam asher yatzar." Okay, so it's a very complicated pasuk. It has all kinds of mystical meanings and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to focus on just the beginning of it. So Hashem Elokim planted a garden be'eden, in Eden. The garden, it's usually called the Garden of Eden, but it actually says, the Torah actually says that Hashem planted a garden in Eden. What is Eden? So Eden actually means pleasure, delight. So it's interesting. So Hashem planted this garden in pleasure, in delight, in this place called pleasure and delight. So the Mefarshim explained that, and I apologize, I forgot exactly who said this. I just read this recently, that Hashem, it was actually a garden. Like Hashem picked exactly, which tree was going to go where, and which flowers would go where, and how the grass would grow. And just like a person plants his own garden, and he chooses, what to do. Like you have all these things that Hashem created, all these plants and trees and flowers and grasses and herbs and all these things. We can plant what we want in our own garden. So if you think about it, how miraculous it is that this was a garden that an infinite being planted. So this is the place that Hashem wanted mankind to start out in. And then he placed the man that he formed. And it's interesting, there's a whole more mystical thing about how first it was Bara, Hashem created Adam, and then Yitzer, and then he formed Adam. But if you think about Adam Arishon, if you think about this very first man, that he was created by the hands of Hashem. Now, Hashem's creating everyone, but Hashem chooses to create everyone else through this, everyone except Adam and Chava, through this more natural process of how he creates everyone through, an Abba and Ima, a husband and a wife, inside the Ima, inside the mother, and then the Ima gives birth to the child. But Adam Arishon and Chava were two special creations that were created directly from Hashem without this, this natural process of coming from a father and a mother. So also, when Hashem created Adam in the garden, let me see if I can find this real quick. It says that he cleared out the garden. Let me see. It says in Yeshaya, in Isaiah 5:2, that he says that he cleared it out of stones. So Rashi is going to explain that he cleared it out of the Yetzer Hara until Adam ate of the tree of knowledge, the ate das tov v'ra, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so you can ask this question: what choice is there without a Yetzer Hara? Why did Adam do this? Why did Adam Rishon do this? So one thing we want to look at is that the world began by Hashem creating this garden and placing Adam in the garden. And then we can see that the goal of all mankind is to return to this Garden of Eden, this Gan Be'eden. The whole goal of mankind in all of history is to return the world to this state of this Garden of Eden. And that's what we call Olam Haba. And how we're getting to that stage is we have the first, it says in the Mishnayos that the first 2,000 years of the world were Toho and Bohu, these worlds of chaos and emptiness. And then the 2,000 to 4,000 was the years of Torah. At first, Abraham is born, Abraham, and then we receive the Torah, through Moshe at Har Sinai and Mount Sinai. And then the years 4,000 to 6,000 are the years of Mashiach, meaning starting in the Hebrew year of 4,000, any year past that, Mashiach can come. And then when Hashem finally sends Mashiach, we're going to start the age of Yemot HaMashiach. And we're going to return to where all the Jewish people are gathered back to Eretz Yisrael, and we rebuild the temple, the Beis HaMikdash, in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. And then Mashiach, or maybe two, or maybe more, but Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David are going to help lead the world back to this Garden of Eden, and it's a state, and so the state of the world we call Olam Haba, the world to come. So if we learn more about what it was at the very beginning, we can see how it's going to be at the end. So the question is, what was the world like before the Chet of Adam, before the mistake of Adam? So we're going to learn in Strive for Truth. So it's a little confusing. It's the Sefer. It's a translation of the Sefer Miksav Me'Eliyahu by Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler. And this is a translation into English. It's called Strive for the Truth. And he's going to bring the Rambam, and he's going to bring a quote from the Rambam in his guide for the perplexed, Mar Nevuchim. Okay, so here we go. So Rambam's going to ask this question, and he's going to say, from the Torah story, it seems that by sinning, man gained his greater glory, the facility of Bechira, free will. So how can this be? So Rambam explains that before the Chet, before the Avera, before the sin, that Adam, with his majestic intellect, could distinguish between emes, truth, and sheker, falsehood. But morality's concepts of good and bad, of tov and ra, or proper and improper behavior, were meaningless to him, because such ideas entered his consciousness only after the Chet, only after he ate from the eitz adas, tov and ra, from the tree of knowledge. So perhaps we can interpret this as follows. Since everything exists only by the virtue of Hashem's will, it follows that what he rejects has no true existence. Good, tov, is what Hashem desires, and therefore only tov can be called true, emes, and real. So Adam, before the Chet, he saw this so clearly that he saw the whole world only in terms of emes and sheker, truth and falsehood. So what Hashem wanted was true, was emes. And what Hashem did not want was sheker, was false and unreal. So at a much lower level, we see the world in terms of tov v'ra, good and evil. We feel that evil is as real as good. And we can imagine ourselves living a life where we reject Hashem, as many do. Chas v'shalom. So we realize that this would be wrong. But we see that it could be a successful life in many ways. This is what was meant above by our seeing both good and evil as real. So before the Chet, it would have been impossible to see the world in these terms. It was clear that there was only one reality, a life of Hashem, and all else was sheker. It was false, it was unreal, it was illusionary. So only after the Chet, after the Avera, could we begin to see the world in terms of two competing realities, good and evil. It was then that good and evil became mixed in the human mind, in our consciousness. So it's amazing. So we now live in this world where people are constantly choosing between good and evil. So why did Adam HaRishon do this? One second. Okay, so one explanation of why Adam HaRishon, why he did this Chet, why he did this mistake, is that he wanted to create, one explanation given by the Parsha is he wanted to create a greater Kiddush Hashem. That he just had this very little choice. Hashem told him, don't eat from this one tree. You can have all the other trees. Enjoy the world. Enjoy this beautiful garden I planted for you in this place called Eden, in this garden of pleasure. Enjoy everything in it. But I want you to do one thing. I give you one mitzvah, not to eat from this one. I don't want you to lower yourself into this level of tov and ra, good and evil. I want you to live on a higher, elevated spiritual existence. So Adam HaRishon made a Chet. He made a mistake. He thought, what if I go down to that lower level of consciousness where I can see evil as real and I have to choose between good and evil? And in that darkness, then when I make the same decision, which is basically to live with Hashem, to live only with Hashem, but he's going to make it in a much lower level. He wants to make that decision in a much lower level. And he wants to turn away from evil and choose good. And then the light that can be brought out of that darkness will glorify Hashem to a much greater magnitude. All right, so this is the path that Adam HaRishon chose for the world. And now it's the job of all of mankind to undo this Chet. And in this darkness, in this constant battle of us choosing good over evil, And people seeing evil as real, and the illusion, the illusions they see before them as real, and that evil is a real option. In this darkness, we have to choose good. And then we can bring this world first into Yemotza Mashiach. When we get that craving for Mashiach, we can bring the world into Yemotza Mashiach. And then we can bring it back to that Garden of Eden, into Olam Haba. And the original plan of Hashem is that he wanted pre-eights, I'm sorry, I forgot. He wanted fruit trees that produce fruit trees that produce fruit. And what the earth created was trees that produce fruit, as we have now. We have trees that grow fruit. But Hashem wanted something even more miraculous. He wanted a more miraculous level of the world, of the tree itself. Every part of the tree will be fruit, and it will produce fruit. A much higher level of when all the spiritual worlds come back into this physical world, and when we return to this Garden of Eden, this garden of pleasure, there'll be a much higher level in the world. So this is the path that Adam HaRishon chose for all of us. And it's been a brutal path. It's been hard. And it's horrible right now to see evil. I mean, I can give one example. There's this drag queen named Oxy Moxie, dressed in satanic garb, that was reading children's books. If you can't see that this is evil and this has a detrimental effect on children, then we're all lost in this mix. And we have to regain ourselves. And the Torah can teach us how to regain ourselves in this confusing mix of good and evil and get back on that path to return to the Garden of Eden. All right, it's very complicated. I hope it gave you a little taste of the amazing quality, the beginning of the Torah. And hopefully we'll all take this journey this year, this amazing year, and learn more Sweet and Good Torah. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you back again soon on Sweet and Good Torah.